One of the things I've noticed after teaching this class for almost 15 or more years now, is that different things appeal to different people. I mean, some people like one aspect, and some others don't care for that at all. Might like, credit card related discussion or whatever, insurance. But I want more specific. What were some aspects that you think you might be able to use going forward in your life? Just from what you know about your life at this point. Of course, things can change. Of course, we all know all that, right? So it doesn't, but just based on where you are today, your perspective, what are some things that may have appealed to you and why? If you can tweet those in, I'd love to respond to those and maybe elaborate on them, or maybe, add some color to that discussion.
There's some behind you.
There's some behind me already. Okay, quick. What are the commission fees for the investment paper? Okay. When I said what are some of the things that appeal to you, we're talking philosophically, right? Start saving for retirement now. That's a very good one, actually. It was funny that, let me add a little bit to that. That's a good one. And you don't need to be anonymous. I mean, own it, be loud and proud. I mean, of course, we know who you are because we can look it up here. It's anonymous to your classmates, but this is good stuff. You wanna own this. You don't want to post as anonymous. Investing is difficult. You're right. Investing. Okay. I'm going to get back to the saving for retirement now because that is certainly something that resonates with me. Okay. Investing is difficult. In fact, I've never told you a story, or I may have. But even if I did, I'm going to repeat it. But I remember a while back, this was probably 10 years ago, a student raised her hand and said, learning about investment is a total waste of my time because I'll just have a fund manager or a money manager. I think she came from a fairly wealthy background, is the impression I got. She said she's going to have somebody invest her money for her, and so why does she need to know anything about it? I know what I would have said at this stage of my life, but at that point I was speechless. And when I picked my jaw off the floor, I pointed out to her gently that if you didn't know what you were doing, you would be fleeced dry by people who are managing your money before you realize it, and you won't even know that it's gone because you won't know what questions to ask. So I think. Yes, investment is difficult for some, and there's nothing wrong in that. But I think it behooves you to know at least enough to ask questions so that at the end of the day, it's your money, right? Whether you want to be a part of it or not, and different people will choose different levels of involvement, which is normal, perfectly normal. But I feel that it's all of your responsibilities in this room by virtue of being educated, by virtue of living at the time you do right now, and taking a class such as this, to know at least the minimum in investments so that you can ask the right questions. If you see something's not right with your money, then you can at least sit down with this person and go over some things, because guess what? If there is no money in your account for whatever reason, you're going to be the sufferer of that, right, at the end of the day. So it is, whether or not you spend, investment is difficult, and we have to choose our levels of involvement, but I think it behooves everybody to at least have a minimum level of involvement with your money. So that's what I would encourage you to do. I can now say I understand how difficult it is to understand the complexity of the stock market, and I respect those who are making a future career around it. Yes and no. I mean, it is definitely, I fully agree with that sentiment. But I hope that you also understood that underneath the complexity, there's also certain simplicity to it. And if there's one piece of advice, among the rare piece of advice that I try not to give advice, but if there's one advice that I would leave you with, is that at the end of the day, investment can be fairly simple as well. Yes, you can make it complicated. You can make anything complicated. The Rube Goldberg Award is a testament to making the simple. You understand what the Rube Goldberg Award is, right? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, so let me give you a quick aside on the Rube Goldberg Award. It's an engineering award that where all the Big Ten universities, is it Big Ten only, or I don't know, it's a Big Ten, I think. All the engineering students, they form teams and they compete in making the simplest task the most cumbersome. So you like connecting A to B, how complicated can you make this? And the one who makes the most complicated task out of a simple one wins the task, wins this award. So it's a sort of a tongue-in-cheek kind of award. So you can make anything complicated, okay? So it's not just investing. Anything can be made very complicated. But if you follow certain basic rules, I think you'll be fine. All of you, right? So one thing is invest in index funds. Okay, that's you can't beat that advice. All right, invest in index funds. Even Warren Buffett says that. I mean, it's kind of interesting to hear that from a billionaire. But it's like you don't have to get more complicated than that. Invest in the market over the long haul, and you probably won't be wrong. So there are certain simple things that hopefully has come through in this semester that you can follow. But yes, you're right. Investment can be extremely difficult. It is. If you read the new Michael Lewis book called Flash Boys, you'll get a sense of what algorithmic trading is and what these nanoseconds. There are people who are trading in micro nanoseconds, right? I mean, that's the kind of speed at which people are trading, and how inherently it's an unfair game. It's stacked against people who have this nanosecond advantage, but you're not competing in that space. It's like saying I play baseball for fun on Sundays, or flag football for fun. Well, that's a different world than playing in the NFL or playing Major League Baseball. There's separate things. That doesn't mean that you cannot have a life playing casual baseball or casual football. You can have a great life in investments just doing buy and hold. You don't have to compete in nanoseconds with the big boys. You can simply buy for the right reasons for a stock that you're going to hold and hopefully have a capital gains on in the long haul. You're not trading in microseconds and all. So those are separate things altogether, not to be confused with each other. So that's... For future classes, continue to invite insurance speakers. Yes. Well, thank you for saying that. Neil actually is a staple of my class. He comes every semester. He has done so for the last N number of years. How long? At least for 5 years, right, Maria? Neil has been here as long as you've been a TA, so it's 5 years. Yeah. So yes, Neil and I we keep in close touch and contact with each other, and he continues to be a speaker. I always look for entertaining speakers who also have information to hand out, and he's a good balance of that. And plus, he's an alum of this university, so that helps. But so, thank you for that. Thank God the stock market game was just a game. Am I right or am I right? Is he right or is he right? Or whoever. Is she right or is she? Well, it's a game, but it was hopefully a good way for you to get your feet wet without risking actual money. But protect your assets with insurance, whether it's a belongings, your house, car, or your ability to work and make an income. Absolutely. That's a great point. Great point. Insurance is so critical in this society, in particular, in the U.S. In our this country, where it is a pure defensive strategy. But you remember what Neil also stressed, which is something I've talked about in class, about insurance being for catastrophic events. So treat insurance as a defense against catastrophic events, which means you should have high deductibles and higher limits. There is a tendency, there is a human nature kind of thing, a behavioral bias that leads us to have lower levels of, lower deductibles at higher cost, and then lower limits. But that's the wrong way to think about insurance. Treat insurance as a defense against catastrophic events. Nothing different, nothing else. And then it'll lead you naturally to think about relatively higher deductibles and higher limits of coverage. So that's sort of... Retirement, how easy to actually retire with the mill? Yes, that actually, I kind of came up with that idea of presenting it in numbers about, I don't know, 10 years ago, and I said, well, why don't I just work out a future value of annuity problem to show this kind of idea? Because I used to get these questions, and it's amazing when I see students such as yourselves now in 2014 versus 1996, when I was just getting started in this profession. It's amazing how mature you guys are now, and how much more knowledge you come to the class with already, whether it's through direct experience or indirectly through your family members, whatever. I mean, maybe you've taken some classes in high school, or whatever. The point is that students come with so much more knowledge, which makes the job that much easier. I don't have to spend time convincing anybody about the importance of personal finance anymore, which was a big part of my struggle in the early years. So that's always great to see. Okay. The moment I start to read, it changes. Okay. I taught my parents things. Congratulations. That's wonderful, Anonymous. And that is actually not unusual. I've had students tell me that over the years. So that is great. In fact, I had a student once tell me she was on the phone with her husband, who was in a dealership making deals with the guy sitting, and he was on the phone with her, and she was telling him what questions to ask, etc., to get the best deal. So that sort of feeds into that kind of start saving for retirement now. Okay. I came into the class wanting to learn more offense, but left a defensive player. Hey, that's great. Hey, defense wins championships, right? We know that, or at least we say that. So, yeah, the budgeting assignment really helped me realize what I'm actually spending my money on. Isn't that amazing? What a simple thing like it's not rocket science, right? I mean, we know that. It's a very simple exercise that really can be very revealing, because I'm no different. I mean, I tend to, gloss over things, and human mind is remarkable in terms of selective memory. We tend to selectively remember things and forget other things. So budgeting does help to put a fine point on things that you can't deny anymore. So it's a habit that you should continue to have. Don't give up on it. Maintain that habit and in life, and I bet you it'll help you. And so. Invest money that you can afford to lose. Yes, it's always good, and this is something I practice myself, so I'm comfortable in sharing that. I do have a play account, which has grown over the years. I'm lucky, but I started with a small amount, and it's a fairly large amount now. But it's money that I take risks with. So I do some, whatever I'm thinking of, I do invest in it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. One of my recent failures was a stock, I might as well share, that I had high hopes on and has so far let me down. It's called Endocyte. It's a local drug manufacturer on smart drugs that hasn't done so well for me. And so anyway, but I do use a play account to do that, and I think it's good. And it doesn't have to be. It's whatever you can comfortably have, that you can have some fun with. And if you lose it, you lose it. You've got to go into it with that mindset. And it's not something that should get in the way, interfere with important things in your life, right? So that's critical to keep that separate. Well, thank you for that. Yes, that is good. I mean, the goal of this is for each of us to be ambassadors, and hopefully, like I always say, that this is really this class should serve as an introduction to the rest of your life rather than any kind of conclusion. There's a lot to read, a lot to learn, and so we just scratched the surface over the semester. There's so much more to do. So in a way, this is just a starting point for you, and you should look at it that way. It's a recitation on Friday. There's the pragmatic question here. No, yes. So going to grad school next year will definitely be a wake-up call for me when it comes to financing. I'm glad there's more. Okay, well, great, wonderful. I don't know that I can add anything meaningful to that. Well said. I understand how to build my credit the correct way and don't let others tell me fall. Maria's car buying story. Well, as I said, pay your bills in time. That's the one. If there's one thing we can leave you with on that credit front, pay your bills on time. One day late is late. Okay, it doesn't matter anymore. It's so that's simple. Dr. Chakri, oh come on, you suck up. But it's anonymous, anonymously thinking. Well, thank you. It's funny. I think our TAs and I have kind of look at this, and so you get these. There are people who say this is the best class I've taken, and then there'll be this. This is the worst class I've taken. It was a total waste of my time and stuff. So you always get some, and it's the way it is. But thank you. I appreciate the thought. But as professors, I don't know if other professors have told you this, but hearing good things are great, and it makes what we do worthwhile. But we always obsess over that one negative comment, and I'm no different. I will obsess, tear my hair out about why did this person say this about me? I'm really not that bad. But anyway. The stock market is really like a legal gambling arena, and any information. True, this is quite an insight. Yes, it is true. It is in a way anything in terms of whether it's NCAA basketball or it is in a way gambling. It is gambling if you're making quick decisions and quick turnarounds. Like if you're trying to time the market, it is gambling. I mean, I'll be the first one to agree with you. Now, it is not if you're making a measured decision about long-term holding. You want to buy a mutual fund or an ETF, S&P 500 ETF or something. That I would argue with you is not. I would say that's less of a gambling situation. But certainly, the stock market is where a lot of people, millions of people gamble on a daily basis. But to define the whole thing as a gamble, I'm not sure is the right thing to do, because you can, within that chaos, you can still make rational decisions for the right reasons and not compete with those people who are trading in nanoseconds, like the Flash Boys or whatever. So you can still separate it, but overall, I agree with that sentiment. Oh, I was so excited to learn the investment stock market that I opened a brokerage. Good for you. Everybody's posting anonymously. Okay, so, we have one gentleman here who has, Andreas, who has identified, so I'm going to read his thing just because he has identified himself. Okay, that was one we already addressed, so yes. Everybody's anonymous, come on. These are great points, great questions. You don't need to be anonymous. Okay, we covered that. Don't wait until you're 30 plus. Yes, that's an interesting, and it is amazing. And you can do the math yourself. It's not, you have the tools now to work it out yourself. You can see how that the compounding works in almost miraculous ways. That 10 years, waiting 10 years makes such a world of difference, and you don't need to. Right? I mean, there's no reason for you to wait that long. So procrastination definitely is not your friend in this regard. Hopefully you got some insight on how insurance works, and I'm sure Neil's comments helped. I've taught this stuff, but I learn as well. Every year I learn more things from you guys, from speakers, from everybody, from my research, and so it's fun. What is an example of an index fund again? Okay. I'm sure that's said in a humorous way. It's a tongue-in-cheek comment, right? I hope so. I appreciate the removal of clutter surrounding Obamacare. Can't seem to get that anywhere else. Well, thank you. You can't. There's just so much stuff around. And the interesting thing is, historically, if you go back and study. In 1965, around that time, if you look at press clippings and all that, I'm not asking you to do it, but if you were crazy enough to do it, you would see that around any kind of major policy change, there's always a lot of misinformation. Heck, if you go back and look at Lincoln, the movie, forget the book. Don't even read the book. Look at the movie. You'll see how much misinformation there was at that time. So misinformation surrounding major events is a hallmark of politics. It's nothing to do with the times. It's from beginning of time. This is what's been going on. Nothing has changed in that regard, which is comforting in one sense, but also kind of scary in another way. Things don't change, whether it's 200 years ago now or 500 years ago. Some of these things stay the same. There's always misinformation. There's always, these Lincoln Douglas kind of speeches in the 17th, 18th century. They were full of misinformation. And in those days, there was no internet on stuff. Things would travel in stagecoaches and stuff. But there would be a ton of misinformation about one side versus the other. And so it's something that's part and parcel of who we are and how we do things. And we are in no way special in this country. The world over does the things same way. It's human nature. So it's never going to... The goal of this class is to make things simple. And so hopefully to the extent we succeed in doing that, but we always try to strive and get better at what we do every semester. So every semester the TAs and I meet and we go over things that didn't work, things that worked, how we can change, how we can get better. Right, Michael? We do that meeting every year. So we don't try to rest on what we do. We always try to improve. Your comments will be helpful. If you let us know, we'll certainly look at all that. Give us constructive comments, and we will certainly incorporate that in future classes. I can now engage and understand about news on TV. Well, that's great to know. That's wonderful. Thank you. I even called her insurance provider to make sure everything I was covered. Turns out I really needed to give her a better list of my possessions in my apartment. Well, thank you. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you. Roth IRA is a pretty much ultimate savings account with money, okay? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so that first question, I now feel more prepared and hopefully better insight. Wonderful. Okay. All right, thank you for sharing. I think, let me go through some things which will actually be, it's my sort of parting thoughts, shots, whatever, at some of the things I consider important, but you've covered most of it, so I think, but we'll quickly go over these, but it will sort of build on everything you've said here, so thank you for sharing. Okay, so this is about understanding, like one of you said, that you can follow news better. Part of the goal that one of the things that happened was, and this actually feeds into some of the comments you made versus this point as well, is that when I started teaching, so I got my PhD in finance from Kelley School at Bloomington, and so when I came to teach in this non-business department, my mindset was from a different year. I came from business school, so that was my mindset. And pretty soon I started understanding that there was so much jargon in finance and economics overall that it really turned off a lot of students who may not fully be in this, who may have a passing interest, tangential interest, whatever. But it was just so much notation and buzzwords and terminology, and it really made things horrible to communicate to students. So I started trying to simplify things and to try to tell stories, because I believe as economists we are ultimately storytellers. And and I tell all my graduate students that ultimately we are using the data to help us tell a story that's consistent with the data. That's all we do as economists. And so understanding the narrative of what's happening around us with the data that's shown to us on screens or television screens or newspapers or whatever it is, or websites or blogs or whatever, that's our goal. And if we can master that art of understanding the narrative and understanding the rationale, then that helps us fit into the world better. And that's sort of one of the goals of this class that I strive to achieve and try to get better at every semester. So I think one of the goals is definitely to understand the world around us and trying to interpret it in terms of what we have seen in class or so on. So all the stuff's happening and this is something that even when I do a module with company executives. I run a leadership module for a large Fortune 500 company, and I tell them the same thing that I'm telling you, which is, and these are mid to top level managers of companies, leaders of tomorrow, and I tell them the same thing: ask the right questions. You can't, as a CEO, CFO, doesn't matter whether you're a mid-level manager. If you have somebody reporting to you, you cannot, or even not, you cannot always have the answers to everything. And if you strive for that, if you're looking to find the answers to everything, you're in the wrong game. You will never succeed. I can tell you that. What you can do is ask the right questions. And good leaders, effective leaders, have that quality. They can instinctively ask the right questions. They don't know everything. Steve Jobs didn't know everything. He just knew enough to ask great questions and force people that he hired to give answers to him in a way that made sense to him. If you see the was it HBO or Netflix? I forget now, but there's a 2-hour documentary, sort of a thing on Steve Jobs, where Ashton Kutcher plays Steve Jobs, and when you see Ashton Kutcher, actually it kind of makes sense because he does look like Steve Jobs with the beard and all that. But you should see that. Get a chance, see it, because you really get, It's on Netflix, yeah, I forget which one but it is available. If you have Netflix, go see it. You can see it, with your Netflix subscription. But it's a great movie, a great documentary to get an insight on how Steve Jobs thought and his early life and so on. So asking the right questions is crucial. It's something that I'll encourage you to do. Don't try to master everything, know knowledge. It's good to have knowledge and good to work towards something, but if you think that you're going to know everything about everything, it's never going to happen, okay? So asking the right questions is what you should all strive for. So, and we study this stuff to increase awareness, not to make you experts. I'm not an expert in what I teach. I may publish, I may do research, but I have a lot to learn. I keep learning every day. So we all have things to learn and get better. But like I said, there's nothing wrong in reading more and making us more aware. This classroom is a testament to that. But again, increasing awareness with the combination of asking the right question would go a long way to improving the quality of your lives. And again, this is, like I said, this should represent a beginning of your journey, not an end in any way. This should hopefully motivate you to study more, to look at more materials, whatever resonated with you, to learn more. And as different things become important in your life cycle as you move forward, you can come back, if you keep these notes or whatever, just refer to them or look at the materials and study them, or look at new stuff, download. I mean, we are inundated with free information in the web, so it shouldn't be a problem. But hopefully you've had the foundation now to build on, and that's the key. Like I said, investment is a very difficult thing, as one of you said correctly. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. If you make certain common sense decisions, it's not time consuming, but it's smart investment-wise. If you don't have time to, things like index funds, index ETFs, life cycle funds, these are things you can invest in. That doesn't require you to think through a lot. The work is done for you by somebody else. And those are things that you should consider investing in. While we still believe in the idea that as you get older you should take less risks with your money, but the idea of what is older is now changing, right? I mean, it used to be the case in few decades ago that 60 was this age where you were old. Now, thanks to medicine, people leading healthier lives and exercising and eating well, we are living longer, healthier lives, right? All of you guys will be doing so too. And so you've got to think way beyond the norm now. I mean, you for all we know, you'll have, live into your 80s, 90s, and so on. And so your risk-taking should have followed that kind of a new life cycle approach. There's no need to start taking less risks just because you're in your 50s or 40s or whatever. It may seem long time off now at your vantage point, but believe me, you'll get there. And but you need to think somewhat differently than conventional thinking. Credit. Like I said, you should use all the resources that the government provides for you every year. Go download your credit file, just make sure everything seems okay. Try to maintain a decent score as well as you can, and there are certain very easy ways you can do that. Best one among them, pay your bills on time. That's the one thing you can do to really, really make a difference in your credit scores. Really, I mean, these days, your credit score is so important. I mean, potential employers are now checking your files. They're also checking your Facebook page. But in addition to the Facebook page and all this other stuff, they're also checking your credit files to see what you're doing. So it's even more important now that you should maintain as good a score as you can. And like I said, just pay your bills on time. I keep repeating it, but I think it's worth repeating. But debt paradox. We talked about the debt paradox trap. Try to avoid it if you can. Understand, prioritize your debts and pay off the ones that are costing you the most, and work your way down that list. Try to be a deadbeat if you can. If at all possible, try to pay off your bills in time, credit bills. I know it's not always possible, but do your best. Do whatever you can, but keep that goal in your mind. You all know that. I won't. Insurance, and this, treat insurance, like I said, as a device or a defense against defense against catastrophic events. So have health insurance for sure. Make sure there are no gaps in your health insurance. It's critical. Don't skimp. Like I said, keep your deductibles high, but limits high as well. Insurance is critical here because you can, if you don't have the right coverages, it can wipe you out real quickly. And so you definitely don't want to leave yourself exposed to those risks. Retirement, as a lot of you mentioned, Roth IRA, start as quickly as you can. Make sure your employer is maxing out their contribution to your 401k. Make sure you are doing your maximum. Make sure you're going in and checking the allocations and not leaving it to whatever the default setting is. I've shown you evidence of research that suggests that people tend to just forget about it. They just don't get to it. They're too busy doing other things. Try not to fall into that trap. Check your employer's vesting schedule. You can do that as early as you interviewing for a job. And plan accordingly. Understand the vesting schedule, understand ownership rules of that company, and plan accordingly. And somebody, I think that is consistent with one of those comments. You came to learn more about investments, but ended up appreciating insurance or other defensive strategies, and that's well said. Defense is very important in this in our lives here. All right. Well, anything else that's popped up that we should? Well, it's been great to have you. I hope you get something out of this class, and thank you for coming, and have a great semester and all the success.